Okay, it's I have 6 on my cell phone, so we're gonna get going here. This is I've done a lot of these public Zoom meetings, but I've never been the host, so I'll do the best I can. But I had some stuff to get out of the way here, so I'm gonna read to everybody here. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded, which I have hit. I have started the recording. And broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 coronavirus, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus, and steps communities can take to prevent the spread, and all town facilities are currently closed to the public. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Chapter 38, Section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. This meeting will be recorded and be available to be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. The following information is also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link below to join the public meeting webinar. I'm not going to read the link, but it's posted on the agenda. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. And before I get to the agenda, I have a little more to read. Let's see. As a preliminary matter, I'm Greg Roy. I'm the chair of the TCP Building Committee. I will do a roll call to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So members and our consultants and staff, when I call your name, just respond in the affirmative. And I'm just going to go in order. And I don't have all the last names, so forgive the informality here. Ed.
Here, Ed DeSalvio, here.
Thank you. Tom.
Tom Lamb, here.
Dave Passios.
Yes, I'm here.
Brian.
Yes, I'm here.
Mike Mackin.
Here.
Eric Cole.
Here.
Dave Blatt.
Here.
And Heather Lemieux.
Here.
Okay. And that covers all staff and anticipated speakers. So in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, I don't think I need to read this again. Sorry. Read that already. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless participation is required by law. This meeting we will have a time for public comment at the end of the agenda. Making sure I get everything, folks. Hold on. I'll just go through a few ground rules just to make sure we're efficient. We will turn now to the first agenda item. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. And please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. And I think that will do it for now. So, sorry about that. That's lengthy, but we will get to the first order of business, which is just to see if we have any minutes. I'm assuming we do not.
We do not.
Okay. So the main crux of our time here today is to review the pre-designed service options with the architect. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming this evening, and Heather as well. I'm not trying to leave you out. I was just referring to our architects. So I thought maybe I would just give you, Ed and Tom, whichever you would prefer, the floor to kind of go over with us the document that you prepared. And I guess, would it help if I shared the screen here? Let me do that.
Tom, do you want to start and I can fill in the blanks?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So we completely understand the whole social distancing and need to be safe. And we also understand that there are some work that can be done remotely that needs to be done really in an isolated situation within our team. So what we identify are some of the tasks that is really the due diligence without going on site, such as in a big picture item, looking at the reports that have been done, analyzing it, looking at the space program that Heather has sent us a couple months ago, basically set up the project. And another due diligence is the building code analysis. What does it mean if we were to do some work, both in terms architecturally, life safety wise, structurally? What does it mean if we were to create an addition to the existing building? So there's a lot of work that can be set up. So that's the building part, which is again architecture and structural, but there's also a site component that can be done without really engaging the staff of the town. So the way that we put together the scope of work is to use the original documents and really elaborated on it and use the same terminology of task 2, task 3, and so forth. And then at the end, in terms of the fees, we put in different items, really a menu of choices depending on how much the town wants to commit at this time. And so all these are really part of the overall fee that we proposed back in March or maybe even earlier. So that's kind of the big picture item, and we can talk about it in specifics if you like. Ed, I don't know if you want to add on to that.
As far as the site components Tom mentioned, now is the perfect time to get the land surveying done. We presented in this proposal to do the traditional land surveying as well as the drone land survey and the LiDAR. It's a great time. Not all the leaves are in the trees yet to fly the drone as part of the land surveying and to get the staff out to do the traditional land surveying as well. Obviously, they don't need to go into the building. They don't need to interact with any folks. They can just go out there and do their thing. And then after completing the land survey, we have another a la carte item in the proposal where, given that information, once it's completed, our civil site engineer can then look at the stormwater and site utilities, the on-site parking. They can start studying that and doing an analysis of those systems as well, again, without entering the building or interacting with any of the public. They can take the site information, they've been out on the site, and they can go back to the office and start looking at those civil utility components.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, it shows the scope of work.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. Usually I get a green box around it. I'm not getting that this time, so I wasn't sure if you could see it or not. Sorry about that.
So what
well,
we are trying to get at is that, let's say, fingers crossed, May 18th, everything is, the governor will say we can get back to regular business, at least one phase at a time. So we like to be in a good position that a lot of this work would be done so that when, let's say, the school is open up, we can go into the existing conditions, or we can meet with the different staff members, because we'll have organized a space program. Then we can interview them group by group that we talked about last time. And again, we can still do some of these with staff remotely. We were doing actually, Ed and I are working on this public safety project, and we're meeting Wednesday at this point, meeting with the chiefs and stuff online. So we're basically trying to say we're getting ready so that we won't be going back to square one when this all starts back to normal. The new normal, that is.
Yeah. So let me just make sure I'm hearing it correctly. So basically it boils down to you've gone through the tasks that we had in the RFQ and that you identified in your proposal, and you've identified the ones that can be done under our current work program. And it's sort of, those are categorized, what I'm hearing you say anyways, those are categorized as some of the work that's not, some of the work that can be done now it's not relying on other things. So you don't have to get input from public or go into a public building that's closed and that kind of thing. And then I think I heard you say that it's a subset, if you will, of the overall contract price. So I guess my biggest question is just to make sure that if we move forward, that we're not losing any efficiency. So we're not going to sacrifice on efficient project. In terms of like budget and that kind of thing. That this is not going to generate any more cost to the town than it otherwise would, and then it doesn't introduce any inefficiencies into the system that would negatively impact the workflow.
No, it won't. These are all tasks that would have to be done up front if we weren't in the coronavirus situation. These would all be starting point tasks that wouldn't rely on us actually going into the building and meeting with staff right away. It's all work before we would go into a building and meet with the staff and do the interviews. And the civil site work, certainly that's its own little package that doesn't involve going into the building. It's all work that can be done at this point without relying on support from the town or interacting with anybody on the property.
Okay.
And actually, I might just add that as far as the timing, that things are not as busy outside, so it might be easier if a civil engineer and the team shows up and do some verification.
Okay, I'll open it up if any of the members of the committee or Heather have any questions, comments they'd like to make.
Yeah, Greg, I've got my virtual hand up. I'm not sure that you see it with
Oh,
your screen share.
I don't see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not a problem. Dave Passios, member of the committee. I think this is a really good move, as long as it fits within the scope of the contract, as Greg mentioned, which I believe it does. haven't had a chance to really review this proposal except for how it's scrolled past us very quickly on the screen. But anything we can get done now, I agree. Then as things start to open up, then we dive inside the building and have all the exterior work done already. Excuse me, and help tie the whole proposal together that way. I think also as things loosen up, and hopefully very soon after the 18th, we've got a unique situation where schools are out until September, that the occupancy in this building is now very, very minimal compared to what we were going to have to work around before. So I'm hoping that maybe we can be proactive there also as soon as there is a way to get into the building and maybe even get 2/3 of it done while the occupancy is still in place in that center wing. That's a negotiation, I would guess, between the engineers and Heather, how she wants to handle that once there is a change in the state's position and, allowability to get into the building. Those are my comments at this point.
Thanks, Dave. And I did see your hand raised. Sorry, Dave. I just wasn't looking at the other screen.
Not a problem.
I have too many screens for my own good. Sorry about that. Anybody else?
Greg, it's Mike.
Go ahead.
Just a quick request. If we could just get this document forwarded to us after the meeting, that would be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if Heather has any comments and how she feels about the proposal and the short term moving forward with this.
If I may, Greg?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I think this is a good start, especially given the current situation. It will put us, I think, behind our original schedule, even for the special town meeting. I would assume that maybe Tom and Ed can speak to that. But I think this is a good way to ease into this project, and it's conservative given our situation as well, our financial situation.
When was the special town meeting again, Heather?
Mid-November.
November? I think this.
Go ahead.
I don't want to speak for Tom, but I think what we were discussing before when we had our face-to-face meeting is that we were planning to complete our work in time for the November meeting. And I think getting this going is a step in the right direction to get all the outside site civil done, the utility work done, get the initial programming pieces reviewed, the architectural, the structural, looking at the IEBC code reviews. And then hopefully after the 18th of this month, if things open up, we'll be allowed to get into the building and continue moving forward. So I think this is definitely going to help move things along. And Tom, do you have any thoughts about hitting the November town meeting?
It shouldn't be an issue unless there was another spike that we had to pull back. But as Dave was saying earlier, that because the school is closed, so it's a lot easier to access to existing conditions. And even if there are different phases of engaging the officials, we can still do meetings online. I mean, if we can't show up physically at the town. So, and we actually did another survey with very limited people going on site to a fire station last week, and we really limit the size of our group, and the folks from the fire station were prepared, so they check our temperature, we put a mask and gloves on, and we're in and out, took a bunch of pictures, and we might have to go back, but you know, there are ways we can keep things going.
Yeah, we're doing the same in the next couple of weeks. We'll be doing something similar to what Tom described for a police station up on the North Shore. So we'll have our gloves and masks, social distancing, hand sanitizer, and it's been working out well. We've been doing it on our construction inspections as well. A couple of weeks ago, a group of us were inspecting a historic pedestrian bridge. And same situation, all the PPE we were wearing, social distancing. So it's been working well doing that.
Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, this is Dave. I'm trying to understand here exactly the building, and I guess I'm going to need the Heather. I'll need your help on this one. But since the building is not occupied today by anybody, are we able to go in and do some of the things that you talked about inside it with that protective wear? I mean, the only person from our side would probably be Mr. Londa to kind of accompany and let you in. But I would think this is a perfect time where you're not disturbing anybody, doing and could spend some extra time with that internal survey as well.
Go ahead.
Check with the superintendent what staff from the administration is there, if they rotate as well, the same as we do at town hall. But I can check into that.
Yeah, I would say there's Brian Leighton, school committee. I would say they're definitely in and out of the building. So they're definitely in the building at times.
Yeah, I can confirm that. My wife and I walk past there quite a bit, and we see them. We see that, school administrators in there, here and there. Not many, but they're certainly in and out.
Mhm.
Okay. And my other question was, even more, this was for the committee. Was it defined, was it ever defined the land that Passios has versus the school? I thought there was a couple of parts of the parcel that was still under contention as to who had the rights or the ownership to those pieces of the parcel. In other words, I don't think we ever saw a finalized set of plans that show the physical bounds of just Passios.
And Heather, if I'm speaking out of turn here, you can correct me when I'm done, but town meeting voted to transfer, I guess it's maintenance or operations of the TCP building to the schools, correct? Or is it the other way around? To the town, sorry. I haven't been in this mode for a few months. When they did that, there was a site plan that was done with a sketch in a very preliminary manner that kind of outlined the TCP building and the parking and some of the stuff around it, and sort of authorized the town meeting to make that change based on that sketch. It was certainly never done in a manner that was surveyed or recorded. So it wasn't done in a sort of, other than to get a town meeting vote to authorize it, it wasn't done in a legal, like, registry of deeds sense, at least that I could see. So it still sort of exists as one parcel of land. So that's the first thing to say. The second thing to say was, as part of the high school, middle high school project, we also established a demarcation, if you will, between the middle high school project and the TCP project that related to
MSBA.
the state, SBA funding of that project. And again, that wasn't really, that wasn't done in a registry of deeds sort of legal sense either. That was just more of a line in the sand that was drawn that, work on this side of the line was something that the state would refund as part of the school project. Work on the other side wasn't. And I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, but So that's kind of what I know about that, Dave. If anybody else has anything to add to that, please, by all means.
Greg? It's Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, everything that you've said is completely right on. The other thing to note, and Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, is all land is town land. It's who has the authority to maintain and oversee it.
Mhm.
So all the school land is town land. Am I correct in that, Heather?
Yes.
So all that happened when the school committee transferred the property was to transfer the authorization for maintenance and the authority over the uses of the building.
Right.
Legal wording being care and custody.
I believe you're absolutely right.
So relative to the schedule, I mean, I guess I kind of see, I just kind of, it seems like we're just shifted a meeting, a town meeting cycle, you know what I'm saying? So if, you know, I mean, I guess we'll see how things progress with things opening up as we go. Because we're still going to have all the public outreach things, which, you know, it's going to be very difficult to do in this kind of forum. I mean, if we can't get out there and meet and greet people and have face-to-face forums, it'd be difficult to have a public outreach campaign in this kind of environment. So, and, you know, we were kind of thinking of, when we were still thinking about progressing, whatever that was, 2 months ago, we had kind of said, well, let's use this spring annual town meeting as our first sort of step one public outreach. We do just an update article, which we may still do. I don't know. We'll have to think through that. But I kind of just see it as everything shifted a meeting, you know, a town meeting. I think that ability to do this even go to do this in the fall is in question based on how well we can do the public outreach. I just think we need to, as we discussed before, we need to do a good job with that, and we can't rush that. It's not in anybody's interest to do that. So we're just going to have to see how things play out. I mean, I'm hopeful like anybody else that we're going to be back to work in a couple of weeks, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, Greg, Dave Passios. I don't disagree with you at all in what you just said, but I think what I personally would like to see us do this evening is to give our approval for what they're proposing to do right away. Definitely look into accessibility of the building now rather than later, if that's at all possible, because that would help move the whole process to proposal. I have no doubt that the architects and engineers can pull the proposal together by November, but I do agree with you that the outreach is going to be probably difficult. But I would like to not make that decision this evening and set maybe the first week of June as a decision time or some other time frame to make that final decision about November town meeting. That will be well in advance of the meeting, so nothing will be needed to be printed or approved or anything by that point. And then we can, you know, make a conscious decision based on what we've learned over the next 6-8 weeks as to where we are and where we think we can get to by a certain point in the fall or the spring.
Greg, it's Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
If Dave, that was in the form of a motion, I would second it.
It was intended to be. It was kind of a long-winded one. But basically, if you want me to shorten it up a little bit, I move that we approve the proposal, the a la carte proposal to start the design process for the external aspects of this project. Look into accessibility to the building sooner rather than later, and leave this proposal on the table for November town meeting until the first week of June, at which time we'll reevaluate.
And I second that.
Okay, so let's just talk. So first of all, Heather, do you need that from us or what?
That was part of the reason for having this meeting. I went to
Okay.
check with the committee.
Okay, fine. So I will take any other general, and now we'll take general discussion on the motion, which has been seconded.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yep.
I'm a little bit concerned about the timeline. I feel like at this point in the game, we don't know when things will be opened up. And given the fact that the governor has delayed this a couple of times, I think it makes sense to wait until June until we do anything. I don't see where we gain much because we're not going to make it to fall town meeting unless everything goes well. And ideally, I think we're better off at a spring town meeting, honestly. We got better turnout, and I think a big project like this needs to go on the ballot anyway as a debt exclusion. So even if you put it on for fall, the reality is if we can't fund it without a debt exclusion, then we got to go to the ballot anyway, correct?
Which could be a special election, which has been done a number of times in the past, including for the school.
I don't see where we're gaining much by running out the gate right now. I would at least wait until May 18th, see if things open up, see if things ease. There's just a lot of moving pieces right now, especially budget wise. I don't know. I have my reservations about it. I think we'd be better off waiting till at least early June. If businesses start opening up, meetings start opening up, then you at least have a little bit of a confidence in where we're going. But at this stage in the game, I wouldn't be in favor of doing anything. I don't see where waiting 4 weeks would hurt. So.
Okay, thanks, Tanner. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, obviously, as sponsor of the motion, I disagree. I think those 4 weeks could be very valuable to this committee. The sooner we have information in front of us from the architects and engineers, the better we're going to be able to analyze and set up our plans for selling this to the town. I also strongly question whether we can make November, but I think the sooner we can get going on gathering the information, the data, and all of that, and have it in front of us, even if it's piecemeal initially, we could say, well, what about this or what about that, and still have some extra time to maybe have them take a second look at a few things before a full proposal is put together. I think the more time we have for this project to be put together, or the proposal to be put together by the architects and engineers, the better off we're going to be at the other end. The dollar amount's not going to change. We have a set dollar maximum we can spend. The contract was pretty much that dollar amount, and this is just a small piece of that. Those are my comments.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, this is Brian Leighton.
Go ahead, Brian.
My concern on the financial aspect was whether the town manager or whether it's the selectmen or the finance committee approves this project moving forward. If they do, then I think it makes sense to just continue and spend the money appropriately following the proposal.
Town meeting has already approved the funding. That's in the 2020 budget.
I didn't know if because they're trying to save money. Was there any? I know there's projects they're trying to cut back on. This is a project they want to continue to work on.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
So if we're looking at this, should we be looking at this, if you can scroll down a little bit, just to the task order fees, just a little further down?
Sure.
I guess.
Yep.
So I'd like to better understand what we're looking at here. Are we looking at all of these tasks right now? Or are some of these things that, would this have been in the original, all of these things been in the original budget? Are these additions? And are there certain things we want to approve and maybe some that we say, hey, let's hold off a little bit on, I guess?
All of these tasks are in your original contract, all within the original appropriation. We just broke out the tasks that we felt could be done now would be beneficial to the project. And we broke them out as an a la carte approach in case the committee, for example, the site surveying, in case the committee didn't want to approve the 20 some odd $1,000 to have the land surveying and the LiDAR done at this point. So it's set up so that you could pick and choose what you wanted to authorize at this point, but all of this is in your original scope and your budget.
Okay, so the question would be is, for that, you mentioned in one of your, I'm still going to go back to it, but you mentioned in one of your earlier meetings about the ability to do this, some kind of survey of the inside of the building using some special camera. Is that included here, or is that something, what would that be roughly?
That is any work inside of the building is not included here. The A task, A1 and 2, those are tasks that would be performed by our architects and structural engineers from within our office using the existing plans and reports that are available from the town to start looking at the programming and room sizes and conditions of the building, and also doing an EBC building code review for potential renovations. And then the bottom piece of that, which was the tasks B, those are all the civil site pieces that could be done now without interacting with anybody on the site or having to go into the building. So it's the outside land surveying, the outside LiDAR surveying for the topos, and then doing the stormwater and site utility assessments and analysis. Our contract does include, and we have budgeted to have our 3D scanner go into the building, as we discussed it at our presentation and with our face-to-face meeting. So that's built into the budget. It's not shown here because we weren't showing any work that would require entering the building.
Okay, so I do understand that. However, I look at it as some aren't, I look at the priorities for us to try to get you moving and get you into kind of to get an assessment of where we are at today. I look at a lot of these things and wonder how much that, how critical these are to establishing a baseline of where we are today, right now. And that's, I think, the key, because I kind of look at the plans that you were given by somebody else as those should be thrown out, and you're starting from scratch. Hopefully, you're starting from scratch, but because there's a lot of other factors that have entered into this since those plans were done. So if I had to look at this, I would like to cherry pick if I could, and I'd like to understand what the situation is about the internal of the building before really moving too far forward with this.
Let me just clarify. This is Tom. When you say internal, do you mean the clarifications of the floor plans and elevations, the existing facility itself?
The existing, as much as you can of the existing conditions inside the building. So, you need, I look at this as being able to have a good assessment. Have you guys ever had the opportunity to walk inside that building, to walk the building?
No, we haven't been into the building. We've just been on the outside.
Right. So I look at this as, if I'm going to have you guys put in any good time to use, shouldn't you have a chance to look through the inside of the building and get a baseline of what you're up against? Because to me, everything is open. you can change the front door, you can change the way things are used. You know, this whole place is a blank slate to be used the best way that you guys think it could be used, not the way somebody else said it. That's why we hired you, is for the creativity.
So I don't want to put words in their mouth, but this is Greg. I think if we tell them, and I think that's part of Dave's motion, part of the motion is if we come back to them and tell them that we can get them in the building next week, I would imagine they'd come back at us and say, great, let's get it scheduled. I mean, am I correct at that? Correct in that?
Yes.
So, so Dave, are you saying, Dave Blatt, are you saying that you would not, you'd prefer not to move forward with these things until we know whether or not we can get into the building? Because you see that as a starting point?
My proposal is more of, I'd look at some of the things such as task 4, well, mainly task 4, as holding back. I don't, you know, the initial task, I assume the initial task have to be done anyhow. Task 3A, 3B, and 2A. But do I really need topographical maps? I feel like on-site parking can't be done because we don't even know where the boundaries, the means and bounds are for this building today. It's just a pencil line on a napkin, for lack of better term. But that's, I wonder if that's well spent if we can't let them see the building and understand how they feel things could be worked out. Otherwise, you know, to me, the only, you know, the parking, how do you do on-site parking if you don't really understand fully which way you want this building to work and things like that? That's my concern.
Well, I think though, then again, I don't want to put words into anybody's mouth, but I think that before we got a concept from DeGiorgio, they're going to need all of that. I think they're just trying to get the things that can be done out of, you know, the inputs that can be done now in our current COVID-19 situation, trying to do that so that when they can, when things open up, we don't also have to do all that work on top of the things that cannot, you know, that cannot be done now, and we have to, you know. So correct me if I'm wrong, Tom and Ed, but it seems to me that when you put I mean, the interior space of the building, yeah, that's probably the most important thing, but it comes with the site package. We need to know, I mean, it's not equally as important, but it's still important to know how we're going to fill the cars in the parking lot, how the pedestrians going to flow, how it's going to flow with the school and the senior center and the playground, the library. So I would think that would be, you know, when we start looking at designs, that we're talking about whole, you know, package, internal and external. I guess is a question I'm posing to you.
No, that's correct. And when we put this proposal together, it was with the understanding the building was closed and we were not going to be able to enter the building. So we selected work that could start now, which wouldn't require entering the building. And the land survey needs to be done no matter what. Proposals to do a 12-acre land survey, both for traditional land surveying and the drone surveying. And with that, our site civil engineers will be looking at all the stormwater and site utilities while they're out there. And they'll be able to start assessing the existing systems that are out there. So all this information can be gathered now while there's the stay in place orders and will be used during the design.
But I like to add on to the fact, as Greg said earlier, that we really want to see as a holistic approach, and it's easy to separate it, but I think to add the value to the project, we really need to look at the whole picture of the site and the flow of in and out of the building. And understanding the topography and some of the challenges of drainage, we would be able to assess. It might eliminate some options right off the bat.
Go ahead, Dave. Dave Blatt, did you have your hand up again, or was that from before that?
Oh, that's from before. Sorry, I
Okay.
can't do two screens, so sorry about
I'm
that.
sorry. I can't do two either, and I'm trying to do three. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, Dave Passios. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that this issue of the plot plan for that property has been going on for an awful long time. And as Mike said earlier, it's all town land. From a legal recorded point of view, it's one parcel. All of the school buildings, the Brooks House, I believe the library did get split off, but I'm not even sure about that. The street address is one single street address on Massachusetts Avenue. When at town meeting, when they tried to do something with the Brooks House property, that was going to affect the entire property, not just the Brooks House. So if we take a holistic look at this property right now, as these are the bounds of the entire ownership of the town of Lunenburg on this parcel, and how do we fit what we're looking to do in and around this building within the parameters of what's already there, that's a huge step in the right direction. And then we push, if necessary, to set meets and bounds to fit that proposal. I think we could actually do it without the bound, without separating it out ever. So
I think you could too.
my thoughts.
I think you could too. Yeah.
And there might be some advantage to that also. Keep it all as one parcel so that, 25, 30, 40 years from now, it does convert back to, or longer, a school campus, as many people would like to keep it. Then it's already one parcel. You don't have to be messing around with individual parcels.
Would it be helpful for us to show the group the limits of the land survey that we've proposed, the 12 acres? I have it on my screen. I'm not sure how to share it.
Greg, you would have to give Ed
Yeah.
control of the meeting
Well,
temporarily.
let me stop my share here. And
If I click on share screen, will that work?
well, try it. Go ahead.
Okay. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it. Would I have to make him a host, Heather? I don't know if I should do that. You're muted, Heather.
I believe so. If you go to your screen share,
Okay.
click at the top. There's a co-host maybe option.
Okay, let me try it again. Hold on. Everybody bear with me.
So Ed, while he's pulling that up, if you mentioned the 12 acres, how far would you say outside of the past, if you can give a rough idea of what we're talking about? What's the 12 acres?
It runs down to, is it Mass Ave at the street?
Yes.
Okay, it encompasses the driveway that goes to the Passio School, the driveway that goes up to the middle high school. So if you're facing the building from the street, if you're facing the building from the street, the right boundary is to the right of the driveway, and it actually picks up a little of the parking lot up by the high school. Then it takes a left and goes over to the residential property lines. It goes through the trees over to all the residential property lines, comes back down. There's a little park, a little playground. That's not included. That's outside of the boundary. And then there's the driveway. There's a driveway that's included. Then there's the little building. Is it the Brooks House that's out near the street?
Yes.
Okay, so that's included, the survey and the 12 acres.
Quick question, Ed. How close does the line come behind the building itself before it heads over to the residential boundaries?
It's backside, it's inside of the trees, so it's up into the trees.
Okay, that's the original parcel line. Because
Yeah.
there was, the MSBA project showed a line 10 feet off of the foundation of the building on that side. But that was for the MSBA approval process and was never finalized.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Go ahead.
just
Go ahead,
picking
Ted.
up on Brian's comment about the school budget and finance committee and town manager and our budget in general. My point of view with this project is I don't look at these fees here. I look at it as the whole, because at the end of the day, if we don't do everything that we've put into the scope of work, we don't have a product that we can take to town meeting. So even though we can piecemeal this stuff out, if we don't add the balance, roughly another $200,000 worth of engineering, we won't have a cost estimate that we can go to town meeting. And I understand the thought process of piecemealing this out and looking at what we can do under the conditions right now with COVID-19. But at the end of the day, if we don't commit to all of the engineering, we don't have a product. And so even though we've got items in front of us tonight that say, okay, we can just do this portion, I'm still looking at the whole. And my bigger concern is if we spend the money on the engineering, do we still have confidence that we're gonna get support at town meeting? And I really think we need another 30 days to let this thing shake out, because the last thing I want to do is spend $250,000 on engineering and then enter a different economic environment where the project doesn't get approved. And then we put this thing on bookshelf for 5 to 10 years and then have to re-engineer the whole thing all over again. So I think it'd be best to give it at least 30 days to the end of the month. We'll have a much better idea of where everything's going, because I don't want to be put in a position where our current operating systems, teachers' salaries, police, firefighters, town employees, all of that stuff is going to be a hard thing to fund. And we've got this project that we engineered but clearly can't afford at that point. I mean, I remember back in 07 when we went through the whole fiscal crisis, we were cutting staffing. Town hall went to 4 days a week. It never came back. And I hate the idea of having to balance a budget by getting rid of personnel to fund a building project. Again, I think it's best to wait at least to the end of the month, see which way things are going. Maybe we'll get a better feel for where the state budget is. I've heard people say that state aid will probably be cut about 10%. I don't know what that looks like for our budget. Maybe Heather can shed some light on what we know, what we don't know. And I mean, I'm not trying to, torpedo the project. Town meeting approved this. They wanted the engineering done. I'd like to do that, but at the same time, I want to be conservative about things, and I don't see where moving things forward in the next 30 days is really going to help us get to the end any faster. I feel like we can give it 30 days, see how this thing shakes out, have a better understanding of where we are fiscally, and then move forward deliberately. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a full set of plans, you don't have anything you can bring to town meeting and get approved. So.
Greg, if I might, it's Mike.
Okay, go ahead, Mike. I see you, Dave, but I'll give Mike
Yeah,
a.
no, that's okay. I yield to Mike.
No, I just wanted to respond to Tanner. Waiting 30 days basically loses 30 days. I mean, that's what it loses. Are we committed to the entire scope? We don't make policy. We've been charged to implement a policy. If the policy changes, that's fine. If we want to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, that's fine, but we don't make policy. Whatever my personal feeling is, whether this is going to ultimately be a project that can be funded in hard economic times, it's a hard question to answer because we don't know. We don't know what's ahead of us. We're in uncharted territories. So, you know, a small investment in forward motion for this project, I think, is worth it. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to actually, Dave, one more. I'm going to recognize Heather.
Yeah, I see that. I yield to Heather too. I may be pulling my hand down anyway after her comments. Go ahead.
Thank you. So as far as the impact on the budget, this project is not included in the recommendation as far as or play into the fiscal 21 budget. The amendments that we've made are to reduce amounts that come from tax revenues. This project, as you know, was funded from free cash at a previous town meeting. So if we were in a situation, there is excess levy capacity in our fiscal 21 budget that I believe is conservative enough to address any state aid reduction. And that number is not known. They've given no guidance yet as far as what that number is going to be. I don't think in 30 days, we may know that number either. It may not be till midsummer that's known. So I would not delay this project for that reason. If we had a deficiency in the budget in the fall, my recommendation would be to fall back on stabilization. If it's outside the excess levy capacity that we have, be a one-time use of our emergency funds that we've built up over the years for this purpose.
Okay, thanks, Heather. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, the only thing I have left in my thoughts, the last two speakers have covered pretty much most of it. The only other comment is that the money that is committed to this project, the only way it becomes available to the back into the town budget in any way is if the authorization were rescinded at town meeting. So the money is there. Whether we start spending it now or we start spending it in 30 days is irrelevant to the budgeting process. I just wanted to make that statement that this money sits in an account waiting to be spent for this project unless town meeting rescinds the authorization. And I'd like to vote. We've got a
Yeah, no,
motion on the floor.
I know you got, and I know you gotta go too. So I think that we're ready. I think we've discussed it enough. So there is a motion and a second. I will take a roll call vote. So when I say your name, just say yay or nay. In no particular order here. Dave Passios,
Yes.
Mike Mackin.
Yes.
I gotta end my share. I can't see all you people. Hold on. Tanner? Tanner, you there?
He's muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. No.
Brian?
Yes.
And Dave Blatt.
I'm going to say no.
Okay, and I say yes. So we pass 4-2. Okay. I need to move back over to my agenda. Hold on.
Guys, I need to bug out. I got a meeting starting in 1 minute in
Thanks,
another
Dave.
Zoom. Thank you.
Stay safe, Dave.
Hold on one second here, gentlemen. I have a slow computer here. Okay. So I just put on some standard, I think that was the bulk of what we had to discuss tonight, but does anybody have any new business? Future meeting schedule. I guess maybe we could hear from the architects. What do you guys, what do we think here? We probably don't need to meet before we have anything to discuss, so I'd be interested to hear from you guys.
Tom, what are your thoughts about having a touch base meeting in 2 weeks? You're on mute.
You're muted, Tom.
Yeah, so I think 2 to 3 weeks would be good because we need to get the paperwork before it's official. So we may not be able to start till later this week or maybe the beginning of next week. So if we have week and a half to 2 weeks, we'll have a lot of the things done. So, but let's just plan on 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Will it be Wednesday or will it be on Mondays?
That's a really good question. We have a real hard time scheduling meetings because of everybody's schedules.
So, Greg, can I ask a quick question here? I mean,
Go ahead.
guys, there's several action items. So you're telling us in 3 weeks you'll have all those action items we just outlined done and completed?
No,
Completely
we'll have
completed.
a progress. We'll have a progress.
So I would propose we wait longer until because until you get into the building and until you have all those done, what are we really going to discuss at
True.
this point?
Yeah, that's fine. So why don't we do something the first week in June? Does that sound reasonable? 4 weeks?
Yeah.
If you guys contact me in 2 weeks and you say, no, I really need to have input from the board, from the committee before that, just, I guess, let me know and we'll get something scheduled. But how do people look the week of June 5th?
Is that the
First is a Monday and the first is Monday, second's Tuesday. How's the public meeting calendar for you gentlemen?
So the first and the third Wednesday of that month, I'm open because mine are on the 2nd and 4th.
Okay, how about you?
And I think the school committee's the same, right, Brian?
It'll be the Wednesday. I'll have a meeting on that Wednesday, the 3rd.
Yeah, they're always alternate. It's great.
Okay.
We're open on Mondays and Wednesdays, so whatever works with you folks.
Tanner, what's your meeting schedule for planning board?
2nd and 4th Monday.
2nd and 4th.
Yeah.
Dave's going to have another meeting, but I guess in school committee is what time? 7? 7? Okay. So it's just a matter of let's just so we can spread this out, and we were encroaching on Dave Passios this time. Let's shoot for Wednesday the 3rd, June 3rd. That's good with everybody at 6 o'clock. And maybe we'll be in person. Who knows? We'll see.
That'd be nice.
I'm only 35 minutes away.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I do a lot of these professionally too, and I really, it's really nice not to have to commute to the meeting after and come and get home at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or later. So, okay, June 3rd at 6. Just realize that's my anniversary. I'm gonna take some heat on that, but that's okay.
So do you want to do it that Monday?
Monday's
It's gonna
fine.
be-
with me. Monday's fine. Whatever you guys think. Dave Passios will have the same problem. But you want to do that? Let's do Monday.
Well, what about the following Monday, the 8th, then? Because
The 8th
isn't
will
he
be
going to be, is he going to be
Dave-
every other week?
Yeah, but then Tanner will be on the 8th. So
Oh, sorry. All
there's
right.
gonna be
sorry.
someone. There's gonna be someone that's in this boat every time. So let's just go for the first. Let's go for June 1st.
Okay.
June 1st, 6 p.m.
Yeah, your anniversary takes precedence over.
Yeah. I wrote that down and I said, oh no. It's a big one this year too, guys. It's 20 years.
That's nothing. Come on.
It's a big one for me. Okay. Okay. Is there any comments from the public? Seeing none. Any public comments from the committee members? Okay. We will adjourn. It's 7.
Hey, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Yeah, go ahead. Make a motion.
Brian Leighton, second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Mike,
Aye.
Aye.
Brian,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Tanner.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope we did okay here with the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, worked great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Thanks, gentlemen. We appreciate
Thank you.
joining us and
Stay safe.
what you come up with.
Stay safe.
Okay, you too.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.